Good evening, guys. Welcome to BTWN again for another show on another Sunday, which the weather on my side's disgusting. The weather on Kurt's side, hopefully.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
I think apparently there's this small patch on the planet where there's sun right now, possibly over water, nowhere near us. So yeah, again, I've got this funny feeling that winter just doesn't want to leave. I mean, for anybody who does what we do and spends their life in the fringe and in the paranormal, the bad weather, the dark nights, the moody atmosphere, it's good, but no, not happy. So nevertheless, I'm grumpy, Kate's dopey, June's on air with us. I don't know if she's happy about that yet. We're going to find out very soon. But before we go straight towards that, Kate, after your amazing computer suicide last week, how's your week been?
Well, all right, here's a story if anybody hasn't seen last week's show. I get on air, absolutely you can't see me, you just see this black spot right there. All right, that's going bad. That's going real bad. And then we have a chat on the, people don't know that we do have a chat on the side of our screens. In case, we hear background noise, you type it out. You don't say it because if it kills the flow of the show and stuff. So I'm sitting there, my thing is just blown to bits. So I'm like, all right, I'm getting off of this. I'm getting my cell phone. All right, so I get on my cell phone, and I'm looking at myself going, and then I try to make a comment to Mo, and then he just shook his head and was like, I can barely hear you. And then I just clicked off. I go, I'm going to Skype. I'm going to Skype my fiance. I go, it was at the end of the show. You're trying your best. You're really trying to, to make it work. Finally, all it comes down to is Mo said, you need a Cat 6 cable to connect it directly to your modem. I go, well, I have one, but it was broke. So I did do that. My week's been great. Last week, I did make an announcement. September 24th, I am getting married. And I'm excited. I'm very excited about it. And I think we're going to be registered at Target. Hold on, did I say that? Target. So as soon as that's ready to go, you can get Target and see what you can get us. Whether you know or not, that was a cheap. That was kind of my cheap way of throwing it in there and stuff like that. So Mo, how was your week, dude?
So far so good. So ever since the show last week, uploaded to podcast, got everything rolling on podcast. And again, for people who listen to this as opposed to view it as it is now, thank you very much for listening, because the podcast is slowly but surely starting to tootle up. They're starting to gain traction. So I'm glad we started. I'm glad we can put it to podcast. The one thing I will never get used to is listening to my own voice. And every time I put a podcast up, I try to listen to it to make sure everything sounds okay, that my audio is okay, that Kate doesn't sound too much like a slack-jawed yokel. I'm just trying to make sure everything's rolling fine. And I'm sitting there on the bus on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay, can we put a stop to this? I say this every week to our guests. June, how old were you when you got your driver's license?
Actually, I was 21.
Okay, ask Mo how old he was when he got his. Ask him.
How old were you, Mo?
9, Legoland.
He doesn't have one, and he's in his 30s. So just.
Oh no!
I wanted to make that one count.
I don't need
that.
Why do you need a license? Give me one reason why I need a license.
To get from point A to point B.
Dude, have you seen the?
If you can get public transport, you don't need it.
You guys, right? You don't realise, and this is horrible, how lucky we are in Liverpool or in Britain, right? Liverpool, from my city centre, right, to the outskirts of the city I live in, 4 miles.
Oh wow!
That's like the apartment complex that Kate lives in is 4 miles wide. So personally, I could walk to work.
Yeah.
In 40 minutes. I don't need a car. Or I've got a car.
Well, you do have a car. You guys have a car though. But yeah. You gotta ask permission to go somewhere. Oh, don't tell me Natalie has not told you, like, no.
Yeah, okay. I'll take it on the chin. Shut up. But no, as I said, I like the fact that, and it's weird, but time like getting the bus or jumping a train, you kind of need it, because if you jump in the car, you spend too much time concentrating on car in front, car behind, are you in the right lane, should you have ran the cat over? There's so many things you've got to concentrate on. I don't like cats. But there's so much you've got to concentrate on a regular run that, to be fair, on a bus, you leave the guy to deal with it on his own. This comes to my next point. While I'm testing the podcast for last week's show, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, okay, the audio's fine. I can get away with uploading that. I'm on the bus. I'm on the way home, and then I hear bang on the bus, and I felt what honestly felt like someone had hit the bottom of the bus where my feet were with a hammer. The wheel had blown off the bus. It had literally, the tires are like that thick on the bus, and it blew off the bus. I was, when you hear a noise, and I was like, cool, calm, collected, and I turned around and everyone else was just sitting there like nothing's happened, and I'm like, and I was like a big horrible kid about it. So at that point I realized,
Hey, as long as you didn't scream, I'm good with that, Mo. That was a good excuse. If you screamed, I'd have Mountain Dew coming out of my nose right
what
now.
I've got a hat, and I had my hat on. I sort of pulled it over me teary eyes to try and make sure no one see me crying.
No, dude. You're pretty safe, I think, on those buses. So.
Yeah. Oh, also more news, by the way. On the talent rapture at the moment in June. You may not be aware of this, but have you noticed as of late the amount of famous people have died?
Oh yeah, I've noticed.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It's
We've lost a lot of them.
We have Prince and other many people, but nevertheless, it's all talented people are getting. Do you know the rapture?
Yep.
Yep, talent.
Yeah,
Rapture.
I know that.
So you're aware of a talent rapture? Well, that's happening at the moment, and just so people are aware, Ozzy Osbourne is still alive. He hasn't gone nowhere yet. So that's the one with our money's on, that Ozzy Osbourne. When he dies, it's end of days, because I don't think he can die. And we're just talent rapture's going on. It's going on well. Kate, who's your next on the sad list?
On the sad list, I hope a Kardashian goes. I'm sorry. I had to say it. I had to say it. I apologize. I had to say it.
No, you can't. The Kardashian cannot die because plastic is not biodegradable.
That's true.
It can't happen. It's going to be somebody we really like, though. That's the sad part, and I know it's going to happen. It's going to be somebody we really like. I mean, the Queen, she's 90 something. She's going strong. She's like 160 by the time she passes. Queen Mother. That's weird. But I'm gonna move away from this topic now, because I can just see this going into this wormhole of people hitting the report button instead of the subscribe button. So, I'd like to again welcome June onto the show. Now, June, reading the bio that you sent us so we could use it for the event when we set up the event. Normally we get somebody on and they say, well, I've been in the paranormal for this amount of time, and I've investigated these places, and I look at the list of things you've done and you're capable of, obviously the interests that you've got, and you are, if anything, like some form of Swiss Army knife to your team. My God, things. Now, I'm going to read just a psychic medium, animal communicator, healer. The first three that came to mind when I was reading on your bio, and I looked and thought, how much can one person do before burning out? How the hell do you manage to keep everything balanced?
It's, since I was a child, Michael the Archangel has always, like kept me company, been by my side. So I've been talking to him since I was a little kid. And he told me, you never know what you can do until you try. And he's always encouraged me to try different things.
Yeah.
And so I try different things. And if I can find that I can do them, I, brush up my skills.
So
I love animals. I live on a farm. I mean, I love animals.
Decent. Now, would you say that the way you've had to do it has been a form of trial and error to see what you can do capable-wise and what you can't do capable-wise?
Right. I would definitely say that. And a lot of people are afraid to try different things. They're saying, oh, no, I can't do it, or I don't have the ability. But how do you know unless you give it a shot? More than just once, more than just saying, oh, I tried it, it doesn't work. I mean, really, half of it's in their mind. If they just open themselves up, and then they can do more than even they're aware of.
Well, I was very surprised. A friend of mine last year, or the year before last, he decided to try a little experiment with lucid dreaming. and again the conversation somebody had with him, and he was actually being interviewed for another show, and somebody said about what he was doing with lucid dreaming, and they were like, so how did you get yourself ready into a situation where you were prepared to get into lucid dreaming? And he said, well, I lay down and then started. It was at that point when he said that I realized that sometimes, as opposed to being so afraid of doing afraid of getting something wrong or not doing something, that just giving something a go and giving something a try could actually work, which, as I said, by the sounds of what you've said, is exactly what you've done. You tried things, they didn't work. And if it worked, then you honed in on it, or you fine-tuned what you could do. Now, where the mediumship was concerned, how young were you when that started?
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Why not?
When you realised you had the mediumship ability, how young were you when you realised?
My grandmother raised me for the first 5 years of my life, and she knew right away. And so she was a medium also, and so she started teaching me because I was talking to Michael all the time, and I would follow him with my eyes. And she said she knew that I had abilities. All the women in our family back to the 1600s too. And so she started right away to teach me the difference between the good ones and the bad ones. And who I could talk to and who I shouldn't talk to.
How do you differentiate between the good and the bad?
It's quite simple. The bad ones make you feel cold inside. It can be 90 degrees outside, and your core feels like a block of ice. You just get that feeling. It has nothing to do with ambient temperature. Like right now it's 85 degrees here, and if a negative walked in, then I would be able to tell. First, I'd know it was there. Second, I could tell because I feel that core coldness.
It's almost like a gut instinct, I think, in a sense. It's like it's your body's natural way of saying, hey, something's not right here. Something's going wrong.
Yeah.
What do I do? And then you know what to do. You do how you handle it, situations. So.
Yeah, it's the thing is, I differentiate on if a earthbound negative is it just makes you feel cold on the outside, and for me, it just makes me feel annoyed. And then demonic, which it makes you feel like cold, cold inside and outside. And you get this sick feeling in the pit of your stomach. I know even before I get to a spot what it is. And then I have to prepare myself for it. I always do prayer before.
It makes total sense. I mean, gut instinct is one of the most important things that you could ever get taught, or not taught, but it's one of the most important.
It's a natural thing.
Basically, yeah. If you don't feel happy or confident in a situation, we've all been there, and especially on investigation. If you've ever been out anywhere on an investigation, and you'll go into a room, and something will say to you, "No, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be in this room. You shouldn't be in this place." And sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away. And by the sounds of it, you have that ability plus others. So, I mean, massive.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. If you're in a situation and it doesn't feel right to you, then get the heck out of there. But people will talk themselves out of it. They'll forget their instincts and let their brain talk them out of it. And that's when they have problems with attachments and stuff.
There's the one thing I struggle with at the moment, especially with regards to the paranormal field in general, is people are trying the hardest to put themselves into a really uncomfortable situation just to see what type of response, to see what type of reaction they can get from doing it. And to be fair, in my own personal opinion, I'm not very comfortable with people doing that, because you're putting yourself into a very uncomfortable situation. Some people do it for a thrill. Some people do it for research.
I see actually nothing to do with it. I like the idea that it's pushing the envelope sometimes to where it needs to go. Whether it's you doing it, me doing it, June doing it, whether it's Nick Groff doing it on, what is it, Paranormal Survivor, and him and the girl go in and, the girl from Paranormal State go in and spend 72 hours in a house. I think you need to push the envelope, because if you don't push the envelope, everything stagnates. And I think in the paranormal world, and and I think Mo, I got this off of Mo, I think that's where a lot of it is right now. We see a lot of stagnation going on. We're using the same equipment. Anything we see on TV, we got to buy. And everybody is coming out of the woodwork kind of as a medium.
Do you know what? I'll sort of agree with what you're saying there, because it's like, if this makes any sense to you, June, it's people follow a fashion, if anything, if you can understand what I'm saying. June's gone.
June, come back.
Follow.
Come on back.
Do you know
Don't
what?
go to the light. Don't go to the light. Don't go to the light.
Mizone Kage, I'm sorry if I get your name wrong, just put in the chat you rep, but if you're rude to a ghost or push them, they could reply the same as a human, which could be bad, seems dumb. It's again, negative does seem to follow negative, unfortunate with regards to what's it called, paranormal. If you put yourself into a bad situation, it could catch you from both sides, and it's one thing I've always struggled with myself, is the way people actually do that. They'll put themselves into a very bad situation just to try and elicit a response, or elicit some form of interaction with somebody. I struggled with it myself.
Because you're scared. Dude, bottom line, admit it, you're scared. Come on, Mo, admit it. Come on, you're scared. You're scared. You're scared. You're scared.
If I swear at you, right, on this now, I have to put a time, a restriction on it. Don't make me swear at you. It'll happen.
I'm so sorry I'm coming after you. It's been a while, dude. It's been a while since we've joked around. I know, man. I know. But yeah, I mean, like you said, though, like you're saying, that people are. But I'm a firm believer in pushing the envelope, and it needs. I don't know. I personally think in the paranormal field, it needs to be done. Whether it's technology, new technology, and as you come up with a lot of, whether it's thinking outside the box, not watching it on television. You're think outside the box. I just think that needs to be done, and I think more people need to push the envelope. And whether negative and negative, that's up here. That doesn't mean anything. That's not proven. I want to see proof, and I don't see the proof that negative equals negative. I mean, some person might be religious. I'm not religious. I believe in or I believe in, dimensions. I don't believe in a heaven or hell. So, I mean, it's just the way it is, dude.
I don't know. The one thing I'll stick to, and we might as well keep this going.
Definitely.
Until June comes back.
There we go. We got June.
Yeah,
okay. I'm back. I'm back.
Superb. Do you know what the worst part is? I've actually lost train of where it was at the time we were talking. But nevertheless, we'll move on to the next part. So where psychic mediumship's concerned, as you said, it's something you honed in on when you were younger, and you started getting good with. What situations has that seemed to put you in? Has that put you into any very bad situations?
I really don't. I have someone that wants me to train them to remove demons. And you either have the abilities or you don't. And sometimes people think that I'm just holding back on them.
Yes.
But if I get the feeling that I know instinctively whether they can handle it or whether they can't handle it. Okay. And I won't teach anybody that can't handle it, because I would be putting their life in jeopardy.
Of course.
And like you said, there's a lot of mediums, psychic mediums coming out of the woodwork. Suddenly they're everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. And I don't know why anybody would want to be a psychic medium,
right? Well,
unless you have an affinity for it. But you don't have to take the good with the bad. The bad is there too.
Of course, of course. The one thing that seems to catch me as of late, though, as me and Kate have talked about this many a times in the past on the show, but there seems to be a fashion with regards to the paranormal. You will have, back in 2000 up till apparently yesterday, orbs were heavily, heavily, heavily treated as the most paranormal thing you could find. Then it was nothing but night vision cameras was the only thing that was actually credible. All of a sudden, it's everything, every single haunting is demonic, or everything has an attachment. What it is, obviously, with the way TV goes and mainstream media, they will portray that. Let's. I'm not going to pick on any shows by name because I don't want to, burn any bridges with a future guest that we've got. But certain shows will have um, they'll talk about somebody getting scratched, and then later in the show, somebody gets scratched. And then all of a sudden, you'll see on Twitter, everybody starts to talk about the fact that they've just been scratched, or they are being scratched, or and it's sad to listen to, because if you remember back in the good old days, or if you look back at the good old days, the way the paranormal was back then is you research, you look at the history, you research, you look at the location, you check the location out, you do what you do. It was quite passive. Nowadays, it's about what type of reaction or what you can get somebody to do to you, whether you can provoke somebody. And it's sad the way mainstream media drags it round. But I mean, in my opinion, it seems to be following a fashion and a trend, and it must make your life really hard, especially with regards to, as the saying goes, when something seems to be demonic. It must make your life really hard because of the shows, because everybody believes that if something knocks on a wall in the house, that it's clearly demonic, or if they feel something in a room, it must be demonic. So as I said, it must sort of saturate what you do with the way
Yeah,
people are.
that's true. It does. It's like the first thing people think of is it's negative. There's footsteps in my house. It's negative. It's
Hmm.
like first thing out of their mouth. And I try to tell them that negatives are very far and few between, really. You're more likely to get an annoying earthbound spirit than you are a negative, earthbound negative, or a demonic or a lesser demon. But people will provoke, and people will go on investigations without any form of protection whatsoever, and they just figure, it'll never happen to me, and so they'll start provoking, and then they go home and they find suddenly that they have something in their house. It's like, people need to learn to protect themselves and to you know, not provoke. I mean, it's rude. I
Of
mean,
course.
if you went into somebody's house, would you start provoking them, yelling at them, calling them all kinds of names? No.
I would for Mo. That's the only one. Yeah.
Well,
I'm on the other side of the
he's
screen.
different.
No,
Mo's different.
I understand exactly what you mean, because I've always had a personal theory with regards to a family member. If, say, for instance, my granddad passed away a few years ago, and if somebody went into his house, and just say for saying sake, or just sake of arguments, that somebody goes in the house and then starts provoking, in the back of my mind, that's still the memory of my grandfather. That's still the nice guy who
Yeah,
used to sit there and read his newspaper. I would possibly want to go in there and try and pull the person's head off the shoulders for doing it. But people don't look at it from both sides. Just because something or somebody has passed away. I mean, on an investigation, I've known of many a person who's gone to an orphanage, which is literally across the road from where I am, to go and provoke or elicit a response in an orphanage, and children died there. Obviously, there was loads, well, not thousands, hundreds of children died in there from the 1860s up to the 1920s due to illness. And so many people go in there and they take Ouija boards in, they take all kinds, they'll take toys with lights in them, they do whatever they can to try and pull a response. And do you know, even if I alive or dead, if I was a small child in a house and somebody was coming in, I'd want to be away from that person. But
yeah,
obviously, I mean, again, it's the events and the way all the ghost hunting events are going at the moment. It seems to be the thing that it's sad, but it is what it is. Somebody's put in the chat room, by the way. I'm sorry, I'm going to call you Ms. I've called you Ms in the past on this one before. It's Mizun.
I'm married.
Mizuno Kagi. So I'm going. Do you know her?
No.
We'll go for Ms. Nevertheless, how would you deal with a rude spirit that lives in the woods? You like to hike.
Oh, you're talking about an elemental. An elemental? That's what I call them.
So I just thought that was remarkably specific.
Yeah. It's a little gnome.
Elementals.
They look like this. They'll come and get you.
Yeah.
I got a little elemental right here with me. Sorry, Mo.
Actually, I did deal with one up in Battleground, Washington. Battleground, Washington. I removed what I call an old demon. They're the ones that have been around forever, and they hardly ever come down here because they don't want to waste their time with us. But it was like the perfect storm. There was a portal in the backyard. There was Indians trying to protect the people inside the house.
Yeah.
There was an elemental who was curious and was there just keeping an eye on things, and just because he was curious. And once the demon was removed, he came out, and the Indians came out of the woods. And I told him, I said, you can't stay here. You really have to go. You belong in the woods. You don't belong here in the house or under the house. He was under the house. I said, you need to go. I said, why don't you go with the Indians? They'll take you where you need to go. And they all, now that the demon was gone, they all kind of went off into the woods, walked off in the woods.
That's it. This is going to sound horrible, and please don't take this as offensive to anybody in America, but elemental in Britain, I'm not just saying as a whole for Britain, but for me, elemental, it's not something which is a very common phrase in Britain. It's not something which is heavily used on this side, or at least from the circles that I've been involved in. Obviously, over here there'll be another name for the same type of spirit. I can pretty much guarantee.
Leprechaun. A leprechaun would be an elemental.
Kate, keep eating your cheese.
Yeah.
Or whatever you're chewing. Go on, just eat your McDonald's. It's fine.
This thing kind of looked like a little gnome or leprechaun or something like that. So I'm just thinking, okay, you're an elemental. Okay, fine.
Do you know what? You have more luck than they do in the Middle East, because they've got a heavy believing in the jinn.
Oh, the jinn, brutal.
Oh my God, the jinn procession, what they call jinn processions, which are very small, really, really angry demons. Apparently, I think they fall under in a category. And if they don't like it, they'll just kill you. Plain and simple. My personal opinion, I've got this funny feeling that somebody over there doesn't like it, they'll just kill you and then blame it on the jinn and say these little weird creatures came and killed you and get away with it. Kind of works for them. But again, we'll move away from the psychic medium, if it's okay, and move towards animal communication.
Oh yeah, I love animals.
Do you know what? We all love animals, except for when my dog rips the teddy bears to pieces. I don't like him no more when he does that. But nevertheless, as for animal communication, again, did you start? Yeah, shut up, Kate. Did you again start with the animal communication when you were young, or was that something that you've, as of late?
Yes, I was always talking to my grandmother's cats, and when my mother came back to get me and go to live with her, I would talk to the dogs that we had. Mm-hmm. And over the years, for me, it's natural to communicate with them. I hear them. Well, some people get images. Some people get feelings. I get like a full-bore conversation, like I'm having with you. Yeah. At first, they're kind of hesitant, and they're kind of frightened at first. But then if you keep talking to them, they get comfortable with you, because they're not used to somebody, a human, talking to them, really talking to them. But my son is also an animal communicator. And, I love animals. My dogs will come to me when it's their time to cross. And they'll tell me that. I had a German Shepherd, and she came to me one morning and said, Mom, I have to cross. I'm tired. I don't want to be here anymore.
I actually feel remarkably...
Okay.
I I feel very guilty at the moment because I talk to my dog like it's a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
I shouldn't do it. I grab him and do all the and tickle and mess about with him, and do you know when you get the patronising look off an animal in the first place? Sometimes when you're trying to be nice to it, it just sort of goes.
Yeah.
It kind of I don't know. It kind of proves a point to me that maybe my dog just beats me. I reckon he does, literally does. Well, as I said, where animal communication is concerned, as far as I'm aware, that's something which is a very, very, very old art.
Yes.
A game from very, very old time. Was this something which was taught to you, as you said, by your grandmother, or was this just something that?
This just happened naturally, but my grandmother was Irish and Cherokee and Apache Indian. And so in the tribes, there was always a shaman that could communicate with the animals.
Yeah.
And there's one in every tribe. And so my grandmother taught me about that, the Cherokee side of her, and what you could do and how to make it better and how to have respect for them.
That's one way. I mean, I can imagine, especially with regards to, as you say, with regards to the way the shaman was and the way in shamanistic lore, I do know it's heavily based on animals, and especially a lot of the Native American folklore is always based on animal. It's
Yes.
People were named after animals. Animals were actually not worshipped, but they were treated with a lot more respect than they are now. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't treat animals at all with any respect. But no, do you know what though? For some reason, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, why are you a nurse? And why didn't you go towards like veterinary? Because at least with animals, it's a lot simpler. It's a lot more. People are just hard to deal with at the best of times. And as you say, you're a full-time nurse, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I work full-time as a nurse. And on my days off, I write. I have 4 books out, and I have one that's about to be released the end of this month. And then I hope to have 2 more out by summer.
2 more books out by summer?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I can barely write an application form for anything, or I don't know. I don't understand how people can write so quick. I couldn't do it. In saying that, I don't know. The hectic lifestyle of me. Now, with regards to obviously with the mediumship, how do you feel with regards to when people are passing over in where you work? Do you ever come across that? Does that ever seem to cross? Does it ever seem to?
I'm losing the audio on you again.
Sorry, I said with regards to where you work and with regards to your mediumship, do they ever seem to intertwine?
Yes. I used to work hospital work, and I would know when somebody was going to die. And I was always having problems with people leaving their physical body, and not knowing where to go. So I would have to guide them on where to go, but I had to do it in such a way that nobody knew what I was doing. Because
I have a question for you, Jim. It's a bit of a smart-ass question, but okay. All right. When you see that happening, I've been in the hospital enough with asthma attacks and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Do they leave their body still connected to the machine? You know what I'm talking about? Or is it more of like a kind of a color that I'm just curious. I've just been doing this a lot of times in my life, so.
Oh yeah. No, they don't. Once they leave the body, they don't have any machines or anything, and it depends. If they have enough energy, I'll see them as a full-blown person. If they don't have enough energy, I'll see them as like a white mist.
Oh, okay.
It was,
understand that. So much for that theory.
Yeah, no. Although people have a lot of baggage that we unfortunately die. Well, that's not one of them.
The second you said that you had to keep it sort of clandestine whenever something happens or you need to tell somebody where to go. When you mentioned that, then are you still there? Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah, she's still here. Yeah, she's here.
Yeah, okay. I'm here. I just can't hear you very good.
Can you hear me any better now?
Yeah, that's better.
As I said, when you mentioned about about seeing people whilst you're in the hospital and trying your hardest not to obviously draw attention to yourself when you're trying to guide them in the right way. The second you said that, the first thing I thought was you were going like that. Shh, 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 go that way, go that way. How'd you tell them? How'd you do it? Is it an art and getting caught?
I don't do it out loud.
Oh,
Everything that I do in communication is telepathic, but I would like have to go somewhere like another room that was empty, and they would follow me. I would tell them telepathically to follow me, and I'd go into another room, even a closet, and I'd tell them, and if they, I know it sounds bizarre, but it's like, you know, you have to help them, because if you don't, they're going to follow you home.
Yeah, no, I
One way or another, they're going to get help.
I get what you mean with that. It must be a hard situation for you to be in, to have to try and come to terms with what you do as a work and in your working life, and obviously having the abilities and being able to have that extra sense. That must be quite hard to try and balance off, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But saying that, you can offer more help in that situation than most standard nurses could, I assume. So it can't be that bad.
You know, it's like being a psychic medium is like coming out of the closet. I spent 5 years in the military, and during that time, I just put it on the back burner. I couldn't deal with it and be in the military, and they frowned on anything, you know, that was out of the ordinary. So I just kind of kept it to myself, and of course I worked hospital work, so I would have to tell them telepathically to, you know, follow me home so I could help them, because nobody wanted to hear that you could talk to the dead.
Yeah.
And believe me, one night I came on shift, found somebody dead, and she was wandering around her room trying to figure things out. And then before I left, I had a woman come in who had an MI, and I'm up on the bed giving her CPR.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy.
Well, again, with regards to the military, and as you said there, I remember James Van Prague. I don't know if you're aware of James Van Prague.
Oh, yeah.
James Van Prague once had a situation where he was in a seance, and in the seance, a mother was trying to, it was a wife who was trying to speak to her husband who had passed away in a war, and he would not let go of a piece of wood, and he was afloat in an ocean. Apparently, quite like a perpetual situation where he was constantly afloat, and James Van Prague was invited there to try and persuade them to let go of the wood and to obviously to go off to where he needed to go off to. But it must be, I don't know, it must be horrifying, some of the things you do hear and you do see, being able to have that type of extra ability and extra sense. Has there ever been a time where you've actually said, no, enough's enough? Have you ever been pushed too far with regards to it?
I don't think that there's... You mean if there's ever been a time when a spirit said, I'm not going? Is that what you're talking about?
Been a time when it's gone too, it's been too hard for you to deal with something, like, as you just said there, with regards to...
My husband is one of those people that if you can't touch it, feel it, or see it, it don't exist. But one night, he had a dream that he was on the Arizona, and he was below decks, walking through water like you walk through air.
Yeah.
And the big topic of conversation was, how come they didn't come for us? They entombed those men down there. And he had it 3 nights in a row, and he says, I go up on the monument, and I find my name, I run my finger down and find my name on the monument, and I wake up. He said, can you do anything to help those people? And I said, well, yeah, if they want help. And so I was able to send all but one to help them cross over. He didn't want to leave. It's his choice. It's free will. He wanted to stay there and take care of the ship. So he decided he would not go and did not want to go.
Yeah, no. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. You know, you can't make them go unless they're nasty.
Yeah.
If they're really giving people a hard time or injuring people or torturing people, and they're earthbound negative, they're going to go.
It must be frustrating those times when, as I've just said, when you do deal with the people who don't want to go. But again, as you say, where free will is concerned, you know, sometimes people want to do what they want to do. You can't persuade them. Sometimes it's not a case of wanting to persuade them. I understand how that might be a bit frustrating. But I mean, you're doing the right thing. You're fighting a good fight, so that can't be bad. As for one of the other abilities you've got, which I find really fascinating, is a healer.
Yes.
Now, again,
I was, it's a different kind of healing. It's a spiritual healing.
yeah.
I had delivered my son and was going through postpartum depression after his delivery.
Mhm.
And I asked God for help. And of course, I don't know what I expected, big booming noise or something. But he came to me one night. It was late. I was up writing, and I asked my sister, who is one of my guardians, well, what does God think about this? Or what does God think about that? And she said, ask him. I said, how do you ask him? You know, this is God we're talking about here. She said, just close your mind, close yourself down and think of him, and he'll respond. And I thought, nah, it can't be that easy. Just really can't be that easy. But it was. And he said, I'm going to give you a gift. I'm like, oh, okay. He said, I'm going to give you the gift of healing. And then the next thing I know, my body starts to shake, and I wake up on the floor. And I hear him say, my gift to you. And I'm like, okay, but I don't have a manual. I don't have, how does this work? Do we put out a free beer sign and say, come on down? And he's like, no. He says, I will send people to you by word of mouth, and word of mouth alone. And I'm like, okay. And he said, you will know, because I will let you know if this person can be healed or not. He said, you are my conduit. You are the physical connection only. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. His power passes through me and into the person once I lay the hands on them. So it's kind of a spiritual healing. You have to have the faith. And over the years, that was 26 years ago, he has, healed a lot of people. And I go where he tells me to go. And that's what the healing is all about.
But you can't claim that on expenses if he's sending you all over the place.
Nah. No, darn it anyway. And he doesn't give me free tickets, airline tickets.
He doesn't upgrade you, what can you do?
He doesn't upgrade you, that's kind of harsh. But again...
I'm like, man, the least you can do is give me free airline tickets.
Or put them on your credit card or something,
Yeah,
Buy from your frequent flyer miles.
Of all the things that God
I'd have
do,
some good ones.
Yeah, you'd be all over the world.
I've learned over the years to do it from distance. I said, well, the first thing I had a friend who said, I have this friend, and he lives in California, and he's so bad that they don't expect him to live. And I'm like, okay, but he's in California. They said, well, contact him and see what you can do. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, what am I supposed to do? And then God says, you meditate. And I'm like, yeah. He says, I'm going to teach you how to call the soul to you, and I can do the healing in the meditation through you.
Yeah.
And that was about 20 years ago, and the guy is really doing well, and we've become good friends, and he's moved up to Oregon from California. And it's just, I've been doing that ever since for people. It takes a little bit longer, to get the full healing, but it still works.
Fair shout. Now, again, can we move over slightly to talk about your books? Can you tell us what books you've got out for us?
Yeah, what do you have out?
I have A Medium's Guide to the Paranormal, which is the first book that I wrote, which has just been picked up by Cactus Moon Publishing. I have Paranormal Encounters Book 1 and Book 2, which are, recounting my paranormal encounters. And I have a book called The Dark Side of the Paranormal. It talks about negatives, how to tell them apart, what their abilities are, what their weaknesses are and their fears, how to protect yourself, what works, what doesn't work. And that one has also been picked up by Cactus Moon Publishing, but you can still get them on my website. And then the new one I'm about to release is called Out of Time. It's a, don't laugh, it's a paranormal romance.
A paranormal romance. How much can you divulge without obviously ruining?
I don't think it's ever been done, but the story is told from several different viewpoints. Of course, you have the hero and the heroine, and then you have the antagonist, and then you have the spirit guides.
Yeah.
And so it's told from all three of these ways, you know, from the hero's point of view, from the guides and guardians that belong to the hero, and from a ghost.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting because you get it. It's an ongoing thing, and there's some comedy in it. It's a light romance. None of this seedy stuff, guys.
Oh.
but it takes place local. It takes place locally.
Yeah.
And the woman is not only a psychic medium, but she's animal communicator, and she runs a crystal shop.
I was about to say, do we happen to know this woman? She's an animal. She's an animal communicator, and she's a healer and psychic.
Yeah, she's not a healer. She's not a healer.
And also on a VidCast. Like, yeah.
A VidCast, yeah.
She's standing Oh no. Cool.
Oh.
But it ends up happily ever after. There's action, there's adventure, there's, you know, suspense and comedy.
Cool. Any pirates?
What's that?
Is there any pirates in it?
No pirates, darn it.
No, there's no good story without pirates. You need pirates.
Yeah, that's what they tell me.
Oh no. I always envy people who can actually sit down and put all thought onto paper. I kind of really struggle with it. It's something that I've tried, I've researched, I've grabbed a look. I can mess around with video till the cows come home. I can mess around with audio. That doesn't bother me. But if you ever ask me to write something down and make it look like it's legible, as a matter of fact, here, let me show you. That's an average rambling of me. It's just random bits of mishmash. And I always keep a book to one side, so when I'm asking questions, I write away in the corner, just so any questions or anything I bring up, I can write it. If somebody asks a question in the chat room, I write it down, and then I come back to it, and it ends up looking like the mad ramblings of
You can do it.
Like Edgar Allan Poe's ugly little brother. It's kind of weird, but nevertheless, ever since the second you mentioned that there was a book about paranormal romance, it's gone in the chat room, right? Pararomance, rated PG, starring J-Lo, co-starring Benedict Cumberbatch. They've already decided on your film.
Who's it co-starring?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Co-starring J-Lo and who else?
Benedict Cumberbatch. Not you,
no. Well, this is only my second adventure into fiction. I actually have a children's book that's called Petals, Golden Wings. I wrote it in like 45 minutes years ago.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, I'll clean it up and I'll put it on Amazon and see what happens. And it's like 5-star reviews. And I was like, a lot of people wouldn't touch it because a lot of publishers would not touch it because it mixed the birth of Christ with a fairy.
I could see that being an issue, definitely, with some of these people out there. You never know their profession, you know, their personal spiritual beliefs. I'm an agnostic, borderline atheist. Mo believes anything I tell him. He loves the fairies. But aside from that, that book does sound interesting, though. Have you tried to get it into, let's say, my battery's very low? Yeah, it's great. All right. Have you ever tried to get into schools and stuff like that, into public libraries and elsewhere?
Oh yeah, I could get it in the public library if I wanted to, but you know, for right now, I'm not focusing on my children's book. I have another one that's a series, and I wrote it 20 years ago, and it's about a little Springer Spaniel puppy that comes to live on a farm in Eastern Oregon, and it's her adventure. Her name is Susie, and it's her adventures with Pork Chop the Wiener Pig, Thomas the Rooster, and Oscar the Barn Cat.
Right.
And it's a series of 3 books. There's a lot of comedy, but it's a juvenile book. It's a book for children.
Yeah.
And I sent it to a publisher one time, and they said, "Oh, it's not dark enough." I'm like, what?
Yeah.
These are little kids. They're not supposed to have the darkness. What's wrong with you people?
Poor children.
That's because Harry Potter had just come out back then.
The filthy
You know.
muggles. Yeah.
So I don't believe in children. They grow up fast enough. They don't need all that darkness.
Yeah, no, I understand it. It's not fair, especially with kids. I've always said I've got 2 children upstairs, and I will never in my life remove any imagination. I'll never stop them being imaginative. I'll never drag my child away from Minecraft. I'll never let my daughter stop me sitting there being a teddy bear table. She just puts teddy bears on me, and I sit there covered in teddy bears like an idiot. Well, like a dad, as you know. But as I said, you can't take things like that away from children. You shouldn't. It's not. We have no right. And if somebody's saying to you that maybe you should write a darker book, tell them to go away. It's not worth it. Do what you do. Do it as you do it. But I'm now going to ask a question which you may feel slightly uncomfortable with, but I ask everybody, so don't think you're getting away with this one. On investigation, in any aspect of what you do, what is the one single most embarrassing thing you've ever done or has ever happened to you? You can't get out of this one.
Oh.
You have to answer it.
Oh yeah. Okay. It's we were investigating the Shanghai tunnels in downtown Portland.
Yeah.
I had removed a demon, actually 3 of them, from the tunnel, and then we were going to see if we could help, the ones that were there.
Yeah.
And I made the mistake of leaning against I took my jacket off because it's hot down there.
Yeah.
And so I leaned against the wall of the brick wall, and everything came through me, all the things that happened there, all the pain, all the suffering, the events. It was like going super fast forward through me. And I'm trying to peel myself off the wall, and it's like I almost fell over, and the head investigator, he's looking at me like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. And then, and then I did fall down, and I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. So embarrassing.
Don't worry, we all fall that way.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that happens to me.
I have run out of the amount of time something embarrassing like that's happened to me. As one thing I've brought up on the show a few times in the past is I've been in a cellar system of an old lunatic asylum in Wales, and I was walking through, and I'm not tall, I'm like 5'7", and I'm walking through the tunnel, and I'm paying attention, and I've actually got the audio of this. I'm walking through, and I've got my camera going, and I'm trying to work out where I'm going, and then all of a sudden on the video you just hear ding, and the camera stops, and it's me. I hit a pipe full on. I just walked into it.
No.
It didn't half click, it clipped me, but it rang like a bell. And I didn't know if I was so proud of the noise it had made or so stupid at the fact that I put it up on YouTube for a very short period of time and took it straight down again. I thought I couldn't do it. But yeah, where are we? Somebody's just put on in the chat room, Mizu no Koge, if I've got it right, has put, I remember when I was 6, I saw The Shining and another Stephen King movie where a kid was pushed under solid ice and drowned. It never clicked that what I was watching was bad till my mum came in and shut it off. Then I didn't get it why until I was older. Cool. We were talking a little bit earlier about the book being dark, about how sometimes children might not process something as being dark. And you know what? I actually agree with Ms. Just on the grounds that my son is heavy into Tim Burton movies, and he loves watching Corpse Bride and Nightmare Before Christmas, and he doesn't see them as scary, but he can watch a YouTube video about the Kraken or a sea monster and cry and panic and get worried. So I do actually get what you're talking about there, Miss. That makes a lot of sense. What I am going to say though is we are actually coming to the end of the interview, so if possible, can you tell us where people can actually find your books?
Yeah, you can get my books on Amazon.com for the Paranormal Encounters 1 and 2. But if you'll have to go to my website to get A Medium's Guide to the Paranormal and The Dark Side of the Paranormal, you can get those through me still until they come out in June into the stores.
Well, is that Mystic?
But you can get them in print or ebook.
And that's on mysticconnections.org.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Right. What I'll do is I'll link to everybody who's listening to this. If you're if you listen to it on podcast, look in the description section. If you're watching this now, just look into the description section below the video. But it's mysticconnections.org, and the books that June's got out as A Medium's Guide to the Paranormal, Paranormal Encounters Book 2, and The Dark Side of the Paranormal.
Yeah, you can get all of them there.
Cool. And you're a member of NW Paranormal. Is that right?
What's that?
And you also a member of NW Paranormal.
Yes, Northwest Paranormal Investigative Team. Uh-huh.
And that's nwparanormal.net. That'll also be in the
yes.
description below. So again, listen, guys, for everybody in the chat room who's appeared, thank you very much for appearing. And every time you appear, Miz, and every time Mr. Buttheart, I love your name. Every time you guys show up, don't have to it makes it fun, because just to point out, June will be talking and having the interview, and I'll look in the chat room, and the chat room is just, it's fun. It's hilarious. And again, to somebody who came on a little bit earlier to the question, thank you very much for showing up. You actually made life fun for me and for everybody else in the chat room. And yeah, hopefully we'll catch up with you very soon again. And Keith disappeared a couple of minutes ago. I don't know where the hell he's gone. So I'll close up and I'll say thank you very much for popping on, and we'll catch you all again soon. Thanks, Miz. Thanks everybody in the chat room. We'll catch you again soon. Bye, guys.